You know what? I've had an aha moment about 2012 politics. And it is one for which I am sort of scolding myself, I have to tell you. And the reason I'm scolding myself is because I should have known at Pokemon. I feel like an idiot about this. We noted it when the Pokemon thing happened, and at the time it just seemed like an aberration from normal news and from normal politics. Just seemed like a one-off weird thing. But looking back now that it is so obvious, now that it has finally dawned on me, I should have known at Pokemon. We all should have known at Pokemon. It was the first Republican presidential debate in Iowa back in August, right before the Ames, Iowa straw poll. They have their debate, and at the end of the debate, the candidates give their closing statements. And they know from the format of the debate that they're going to have a chance to give a closing statement. This is one of those things that you can plan for. You can prepare for this. You write your closing statement ahead of time. Well, Herman Cain's closing statement that night read in part, quote, "A poet once said..." You know, and I could read the rest of it, but you know what? You're not going to believe me if I just quote it, so let's just play it.
A poet once said, "Life can be a challenge, life can seem impossible, but it's never easy when there's so much on the line."
The poet in question here is Pokemon. That is a verse from the theme song from the Pokemon movie, quoted by Herman Cain in a presidential debate as inspirational poetry.
Life can be a challenge. Life can seem impossible.
Life can seem impossible.
It's never easy when so much is on.
But it's never easy when there's so much on the line.
We should have known at Pokemon. We should have known. I believe that the artist formerly known as Herman Cain was trying to end the whole thing right there. I think he was begging to be exposed right there, but nobody got it. I among them. Sure, we thought it was a little wacky, we put it on the show, but we weren't willing to see the whole thing at that point. We weren't willing to believe that this was really happening. Then Herman Cain unveiled his 999 plan, right? Where did he come up with his 999 plan? The first official story from the campaign was that it was a secret. Mr. Cain refusing to reveal his advisors. The second answer from the campaign was that the 999 plan came from a guy who works at the local Wells Fargo branch on Chagrin Boulevard in a place called Pepper Pike, Ohio, which may indeed be where the 999 campaign came from. Chagrin Boulevard. But the other place in the world where a 999 plan already exists is in Sim City, in the video game. 999 is the operating tax structure in Sim City, which is a fake place. It's a video. Herman Cain angrily denied this. He said it was a lie that Sim City was where he got his 999 plan from. But come on, it's almost like he is begging us to get in on the joke. Then, after that, Herman Cain publishes a book. The title of his book is, "This is Herman Cain!" Exclamation point. The exclamation point is part of the title. One full chapter of the book is about the good fortune bestowed on Herman Cain by the number 45. That's the title of the chapter. 45. A special number. Naturally, it's chapter 9, because what's 4 plus 5? 9. 999. Yeah, you are getting the point here. I think we are all supposed to be getting the point by this time. But we're not. Around the time the book comes out, Herman Cain rockets to the top of the polls, polling in first place for the first time both in key early states as well as in nationwide polls. How does Herman Cain respond to his surge to frontrunner status in the polls? He decides he's going to go on a month-long book tour. He also never actually bothers to set up full campaign staffs in states like New Hampshire or South Carolina or Iowa. Even now, weeks into being one of the frontrunners in the polls, still no real staff to speak of. Asked to respond to the idea that he is just the Republican flavor of the month, Herman Cain does not deny that he is the flavor of the month. Instead, he picks what flavor he is. According to Herman Cain, he's black walnut. And not just any black walnut, he is Haagen-Dazs black walnut, which does not exist anymore.
If you're Haagen-Dazs black walnut, you don't go away. All right, some of these other flavors of the month have no substance. You know, black walnut has staying power.
Staying power. It doesn't exist anymore. It is one thing to be a gaffe-prone, inexperienced candidate, but the gaffes are too perfect. Black walnut, noted for its staying power. It doesn't exist anymore. The book chapter on the magic number. The 999 thing from the video game. The great poet Pokemon. Pokemon? Really? The Pokemon movie? Really? A string of supposed gaffes like that is not found in nature. But at that point in the campaign, nobody's yet figuring out that this is not politics. This is art. Nobody can quite believe that this is politics either, but he has now been at the top of the polls long enough that despite knowing in your gut that there's something wrong here, the Beltway media feels compelled to start asking him policy questions. I mean, hey, he's the front runner, right?
Where do you stand on the right of return?
The right of return? The right of return?
The Palestinian right of return.
That's something that should be negotiated. That's something that should be negotiated.
Herman Cain admitted the next day that even as he came up with an answer for it, he didn't actually have any idea what Chris Wallace was talking about with that whole right of return thing. But still, that didn't earn much more than a shrug from most political observers. And so Herman Cain, trying to let us all in on the joke, doubled down. You know, you just almost see him thinking now, come on, how can I make this more obvious?
When they ask me who's the president of you, Becky, Stan, I'm going to say, you know, I don't know. Do you know?
Okay, at this point, what America is confronted with is the question, is this guy pulling our leg? Here's the answer. Yes, this guy is pulling our leg.
So I'm confused on what your position is.
My position is I'm pro-life, period.
If a woman is raped, she should not be allowed to end the pregnancy?
That's her choice. That is not government's choice.
Good.
I support life from conception.
So abortion should be legal?
No, abortion should not be legal. I believe in the sanctity of life.
I'm not understanding.
I believe...
if it's her choice, that means it's legal.
No. I don't believe a woman should have an abortion. Does that help to clear it up?
That should have cleared it up. That should have cleared it up. It should have cleared up the fact that we are being punked. Ellis Hennigan, at that moment on Fox News, knew that America was being punked. Look at the look on his face. He's like, I finally figured it out.
Would you describe yourself as a neoconservative then?
I'm not sure what you mean by neoconservative. I am a conservative, yes.
But you're familiar with the neoconservative movement?
I'm not familiar with the neoconservative movement.
Okay, after that one, people still not getting it. What? Huh? So the Cain campaign decided to put a big freaking neon arrow on themselves. They had a foreign policy advisor to the artist formerly known as Herman Cain do an interview explaining that Mr. Cain is now boning up on foreign policy. So if you've been a little worried about his answers, don't worry anymore. Here's the interview. Quote, almost every day, Herman Cain is handed a one-page briefing from his chief foreign policy advisor on news from around the world. Just making sure we get the math right. One page, almost every day. This was Pokemon all over again. Pokemon, Black Walnut, Becky, Stan, one page almost every day, the magic number 45, the SimCity tax plan. This is about politics, but this is not politics. This is art about politics. This is an art project. This is a satirical candidacy. And like this show, me doing a story from Christwire as if it was true that one time, or Fox News soberly reporting on the latest headline from The Onion, up until today, we have all been falling for it. We have been treating this like a real campaign. And Republicans have really been treating this like a real campaign, at least as measured by all the money they have been giving him. There's nothing Herman Cain can do. There's nothing this art project can do now to get Herman Cain out of the top of the polls at this point. But they are trying. I mean, look what they've done with the money that they have taken in thus far. This was their first big ad. The Cain Train music video, showing Mr. Cain walking away from the camera, also showing the Herman Cain logo shakily superimposed on, shaky, on railroad cars. Then there's this part where they turn Herman Cain into the train. Watch this. Train, Cain, train, Cain, train. Oh, God, he's the train. Oh! So that was the first video. Then Herman Cain rockets further up the polls, and they released this one.
America's never seen a candidate like Herman Cain. We need you to get involved because together we can do this. We can take this country back.
Trying to tell us something with the smile. There was also this sort of cryptic video from the Cain campaign. A long, ornate plot involving a Western. There's some spitting. There's a thing about a bird. There's some fake fighting that they reveal as fake fighting. And it ends with the smile that I used to see as creepy, but now I see as a knowing smile. And then from the smile, it rolls right into the end of the video.
Nice chicken, honey.
Nice chicken, honey. That video, that supposed campaign video, is called He Carried Yellow Flowers. Although there's no explanation of the flowers, there are lots of odd references to chickens. Yeah, this is supposedly a presidential campaign. Still, no matter what they do, America is by and large not getting the joke. Still treating this like this is politics and not art about politics. But I think this week it is now falling apart. After America spent a week riveted to the spectacle of a fake campaign dealing with a real political scandal in the form of Cain's previous sexual harassment charges, today it seems to have just busted wide open. I mean, here was the Politico.com headline on the sexual harassment case today. Herman Cain sexual abuse settlement dated 999. Need a bigger hint? After breaking into song, after being questioned about these sexual harassment allegations at the National Press Club this week, today at a speech at a Koch brothers event, Herman Cain just decided to give up the ghost, declaring himself as a performance art project. Herman Cain just did it.
I'm proud to know the Koch brothers. I'm very proud to know the Koch brothers. Just so I can clarify this for the media, this may be a breaking news announcement for the media. I am the Koch brothers' brother from another mother. Yes, I'm their brother from another mother, and proud of it.
You have nothing, just like me. I wouldn't say nothing. He has me, his brother from another mother.
We are still waiting for the wig thing to happen, but other than that, we're pretty much done. I blame myself. When he quoted the Pokemon movie song as something a great poet once said during a presidential debate, that, I think, was a challenge to people who have jobs like mine to recognize that this has been an art project. This has been satire. I mean, in my defense, these things can go on a long time before anybody figures them out. In the case of Carl Palladino, ultimately in the end, by the time he lost the New York governor's race by 30 points to Andrew Cuomo, everybody sort of knew Carl Palladino was an art project. I mean, he straight up made his campaign slogan the same thing as the Bob Dobb Church of the Subgenius stencil art slogan from the 90s. I'm mad as hell, too. Carl, Bob, whatever. By the time everybody was voting on Carl Palladino in 2010, people had figured out, I think, that Carl Palladino was satire, that he was performance art. But nobody figured that out during the Republican primary in New York State. Rick Lazio, who Carl Palladino was running against on the Republican side, Rick Lazio was a totally respectable candidate. Rick Lazio was the Mitt Romney of the Republican governor's race primary in 2010. He'd run for Senate against Hillary Clinton. Like Mitt Romney, he was sort of a perennial candidate who had been running forever, very well known to voters, very mainstream, even though he was a little squishy, sort of slightly uncomfortable, off-putting guy. But Carl Palladino, who was an art project about how nuts you could be while still running for office, Carl Palladino, the bestiality emails guy, the guy who sent out the political mailer spiked with a trash smell, Carl Palladino beat Rick Lazio in the Republican primary by 24 points. New York State did not figure out that Carl Palladino was an art project until they already had him as the Republican nominee for governor. And so now we have Herman Cain. Polls indicate right now that nothing that Herman Cain is doing is hurting his poll numbers among Republicans at all. The cumulative effect of all of this stuff, I think, means we are now going to collectively sort of turn the telescope the other way around and recognize what this has all been about. I mean, honestly, many liberals are praying that Republicans don't turn the telescope around, that Republicans do not figure out this joke, that this art project goes all the way.